What happens to you doesn't matter. How you respond to it matters. What happens to you is a fact. How you respond to it is a choice. And the choice is available to you only in the present moment. But if you're living in the past and future all the time, the choice escapes you.
Hitesh, thank you. Welcome to Feelings with Strangers. Thank you for your time, and it would be wonderful to let people know a bit about your origin story, because I found you through your wonderful channel, Echoes of Existence, on YouTube, where you speak to many, many different topics about life. And what I really connected with was how you have the ability to articulate and simplify what can be quite, we perceive them as complex issues, or they're existential issues such as death, suffering, and you sort of take from many, I feel, wisdoms in a way, and really communicate sort of practical ways we can go about life, which is a real gift. How have you gotten to this position? Don't want to use too many words, but as an educator, for want of a better expression.
First of all, thank you for inviting me to your podcast, Paul.
Pleasure.
And thank you for your kind and generous words. A bit about me. I think all my schooling, the institutionalized education, was in different fields. I never really studied religion or spirituality. But having been born to very religious and spiritual parents, having an uncle who actually left home and lived on a mountaintop for several years and became a yoga guru, which I've never really told anyone online, and just came out. Having this kind of environment, I think, both genetically and both from my interest, I have always been curious about what life is, what are we doing here, what's the point of anything, like the most fundamental existential and philosophical questions. I found myself asking them from a young age, and that is why I kept on seeking answers in whichever tradition I could get my hand on. Starting from my own tradition, where we have several different philosophies, darshan we call them, not strictly philosophy in the Western sense, but ways of seeing the reality. Like that's all it is about. How do we perceive reality? What is going on here? And so I'm happy to receive answers or receive point of views from as many people as there are. So I don't feel the need to be stuck to or identified to a system, be it religious system or cultural system. So yes, the journey has been very spontaneous. I knew that through traveling, I could get in touch with more people. So when I was younger in my early 20s, I took to traveling after quitting my jobs and stuff. And that's how the real journey actually began, getting in touch with different kind of people, with different kind of approaches to life. And so all life becomes your guru, especially if you're not a traditional person who likes to have just one guru like me, then all life is a student and all life is a teacher. So yeah, that has been the journey. And I've been teaching yoga for almost a decade now. But over the last couple of years, something was coming from inside telling me that I'm still not able to express fully myself through yoga only. So the desire came from within while hiking a mountain around here to start talking about, start saying, start talking about things that cannot be talked about. So, like speaking about truth, you cannot really talk about it. So, yeah, and the other part is very artistic. I think I love words. I love English language in general. I love languages in general, English language specifically, and I like words, and I like my mind that can think, that can add 2 + 2 into 4. So it's both. It's an honest inquiry that comes from within, and the desire to share with everybody what I know, not from the position of a teacher or a guru, but from the position of a fellow human who is also trying to figure out life with you. And I've been thoroughly enjoying doing it so far.
So when you were younger and you started down the path of education, uh, and like I guess most people, you're asked what you want to do from a very young age and expected to answer such a profound question. Were you? What was your feelings when you were younger? Did you mentioned that you always had a childlike view of the world in that, for me, which is that innocence and inquisitiveness. were you feeling pushed into doing something and then you changed paths when you realized it wasn't the right one, or is this something that just emerged of its own will?
It seems to have emerged. All the life circumstances definitely. You can look back at your life and try to make sense of it, but that's just your mind figuring out things because it can only do that in retrospective. It cannot really look forward and make sense. So yes, many things could be said about it, but I distinctly remember the feeling around the age of 16 when I felt good for nothing, when I felt like I'm the biggest fool in the world, and I in my because I was the youngest in a joint family of 5 kids and uh, two sets of parents. And then my uncle had left, so only the aunt and her 3 children, and my parents and two of us, so 5 kids and 3 parents in a way. And being the youngest, and we were spiritual and religious, but we weren't really educated in the ways of psychology, like how to talk to children and how to. So there were beatings involved. I have nothing against my parents. I love them very much, but it's a fact. There was beating involved. They didn't know how to deal with 5 boys. Anybody who has 5 young boys at home can
Yeah, that's a
imagine
lot. Yeah.
imagine the chaos that can happen. So I remember that I thought, what could I ever do in life that would be useful? What could I ever do in life that would, because people would say, if you don't study or if you don't do this, you will have to sell chai on the street, or you will have to sell some kind of really menial job on the you have seen India, right? So on the roadside, people had tiny shops. So you will end up somewhere there, people would say. And it wouldn't make really sense to me because from there until the age of 19, I was really confused. And then I was doing my master's in computers. I had left my town. I was in another city close to Rishikesh. There's a city called Haridwar. I was there in a university. And after first semester, and I'm 19 and a half or 20 almost, for the first time, I say, okay, enough is enough. I've been learning all the things that my parents or my relatives or my family told me to do. It's time to get up and say, nope. So I said no to it. I quit my college. I did not know what to do. And from there, like a roller coaster ride of all sort of things started. But yeah, until the age of 20, I think I did learn a lot of things outside education, not through education. My life itself, the way we lived, the way our situations were, and how it is to be in one small room with 8 family members and all of that. Yes, I did learn a lot, and it was a fun time to be with so many people and try to see how interpersonal relationships evolve. But in terms of education, I think I sometimes think, although I think it's a stupid way of thinking, but I sometimes think I had so much energy and I had so much potential. Like if I had the resources to be put into wherever my interest was, because I literally had a lot of physical energy, which I still have, and I literally had a lot of mental energy, and it wasn't being used. Like everybody would sleep and doze off in the afternoons because you know how hot it can get. So everybody sleeps, like takes siesta, Indian siesta. I never slept in my afternoon. I never took an afternoon nap until I was 25, perhaps. I felt like I need to do something. I'm here to open my eyes, not to close my eyes. But all said and done, I'm happy where I landed eventually.
Well, it's very interesting because it's what I'd like to talk to you today about, and I guess it's more to find a sense of peace and a sense of thriving in what can appear to be a very chaotic world. And when I think of that chaos and the decisions a lot of us make, for the most part, they're fear driven. And you somewhat alluded to it when you got told, well, if you don't pursue this, if you don't get yourself an education and a good job, you'll be selling chai on the side of the street, or even worse, which is the sort of latent fear that the culture, or it's a very real fear of what we have of being, broke or having no money, having no means, unloved, living on the street somewhere. It's certainly something I've felt too. So then, how do I fortify myself against it? Which unfortunately, obviously, then leads to I'm narrowing down very much the potential that I do have because I'm only focusing on, I'm being driven by fear as opposed to what my actual inquisitiveness is. Um, so that was the first brave step, is to pursue what you love. have you found? I'm sorry, I remembered one of your videos that came to mind, and you said that you actually lived with people uh, when you were traveling who had no money and you slept on the street and so on. And I thought that was a very, and you called it you're running experiments, and I thought that was an incredible way to see through the fear of the mind is to actually do the thing that you're most afraid of and really find out what that is. So, can you just talk to, I guess, more broadly, how the mind interprets fear in some ways, and ways such as what you expressed and did to short circuit those fear-based responses, which are imaginary to the most part.
Yeah, I think that's a good direction we could get into. First thing that comes to mind is fear is more, for the most part, it's very vague. When things are vague in our head, we are fearful about them. But as we get deep into it and make it more precise, more clear, and articulate it to the last point, the fear kind of starts to disappear. You fear in a hazy way about what's going to happen in 5 years. It's a very vague statement, and you can be afraid of it. But if you can just think about every step, what exactly could go wrong, you would always find a way to get out of it. So I've learned that. But the other thing I would say is that fear is natural, and everybody has fears. It's distilled into us as part of being human. Fear is going to be there. You can either dance with it or you can hide away from it. But there's no need to like push away the fear completely. I feel that in certain traditional spiritual circles, not only in India but everywhere, there are a lot of promises given to people. There will be no fear. There will be eternal happiness. I think it's just to draw people into spiritual or religious organizations and ideas. Maybe they have good intentions behind it, but people who are much more rational and the secrets of the universe are not so much hidden anymore, and people know so much. I think it's good to be a realist and to see things as they are and accept them, embrace them, move with them rather than trying to latch on a false belief or a notion or an attachment to an outcome that says, "Hey, I'm going to be in eternal bliss." If you're going to be in eternal bliss, you're going to get bored out of the bliss and you'll come back, get drunk, fight with somebody outside the bar. And then you would love the pursuit of finding bliss. And you will find out that it is the pursuit that we enjoy so much more than achieving the thing. So the same goes for fear. We don't want to get rid of fear. We are like when we talk about the mind and we say, my mind is overthinking and I'm so troubled by my overthinking mind. We are not troubled by the overthinking mind. We are only troubled by it when it is having negative thoughts. When you are daydreaming, you're also overthinking and having a lot of thoughts after thoughts, image after image, and you're enjoying it. So thinking mind is not the problem. What the content of your thoughts are, this is what exactly it's about. So what I did with my fears is that my fears were so intense that I thought I'm gonna die before I'm gonna turn 27. You might have heard of the 27 Club, where a lot of people, a lot of famous people die. And I was like, famous or not famous, but I think I'm gonna
Yeah,
join the club.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What do you want to be with Kurt Cobain and Jim Morrison, just up
Yeah,
there
yeah,
with
yeah.
good music
More
and
names
lots of
come to mind.
booze?
Yeah, but
Other stuff.
I thought, okay, if
There's a
I'm gonna
lot. Yeah.
die, and let's say I'm dying tonight or now, am I okay dying? And I answer was no, I'm not okay dying. Like I have really not seen the world. I really don't know anything about this world. All I know is I had a job back then, so all I know is how to get up in the morning, go to work, come back. But I'm not ready to die. So let's say you could die tonight. I'm talking to myself, yeah. So let's say you could die tonight. What needs to happen? The first thing came, I want to travel. I just want to see more of this earth. Okay. Why do you want to see more of the earth? So I can just learn how different kind of people live and what do they think about dying? What do they think about happiness? What do they think about success and all that? So, okay. And then I was actually moved by my fear. This fear was so intense that every morning I would wake up, my heart will palpitate, and I would think, oh shit, I think today is the last day. I think I'm going to die. And so it made me actually pursue And I pursued all things with fear behind me. I'm going to be very honest. Most things I did in my life in my 20s were all driven by fear. But fear did not make me hide somewhere in the corner. It made me run in the direction I wanted to go anyway. So it's like using the energy in your favor in a way. And one question that came up to my mind in my mid 20s was that every now and then check in with yourself and ask yourself if you're ready to die. When the answer is yes, life is good. When the answer is no, find out what that no is and then pursue that. Okay. So I've been living with that principle since then. And luckily and happily, most of the times the answer is yes. And whenever the answer is no, for example, it was a couple of years ago, the answer started to be no. And I was living in Europe. And I was like, why? Why is the answer no? What do you need? And I was like, I think my parents are getting older and I'm having all kind of success here, but they might die and I want to spend more time with them. And that became such a big theme of my life, which I did not think it will ever become. And anybody who's in their early 20s listening to this, probably disliking or hating your parents, you might not relate with it. But as you get to mid 30s, close to 40s perhaps, you start to be much more like your parents. And not everybody, but hopefully some people. Anyway, that was true for in my case. Um, and and this self searching, soul searching, asking myself what I need, how I'm doing, um, how do I look at things, it made the noise very little. So I was not doing things because the world is doing it or the people are doing it or this is in fashion. I was asking my heart and saying, what do you need to do so that you're not so that you're ready to die, because you're gonna die. And I've been very inspired by the Buddhist teachings of always keeping death in your horizon, like always keeping it in your sight. Um, yeah. The other thing that happens is that every time you face your fear, you're really one with it. It's not a very smart thing to say face your fear, that because that makes fear external to you and as if it's two people facing each other. It's like when you reunite, recognize that you and fear are one and the same, and you really open up to the fear. Um, what needs to be done happens. It might sound very esoteric, but in the moment of when we are in the present moment and dealing with life, we always have the strength and the courage to deal with it. The anxiety, the fear, the suspicion, the all kind of overthinking is only happening either when thing has happened in the past or it might happen in the future. In the present, there is a mechanics in us, an intelligence in us that deals with it. Like if you are a father of two children and children fall sick suddenly or some accident, something happens, whatever needs to happen, it will happen. It will happen so quickly and so efficiently, you would never know. When the children are safe finally and you're sitting on your chair, that's when you will think and say, oh my God, this could have been worse. Oh my God, thank God. And then you might have sweaty palms and everything. But in the moment, you deal with it. So I would suggest, if there is any suggestion that can come out of it, is to be action oriented, like be biased towards action. But I don't mean the action of the hustle and grind action. I mean, what can you do today to see what are you resisting today, and get up and face it. Let's say you always clean your room but you never clean the storeroom. Today you go and stand in the storeroom and look at it and gain it. And it's actually very efficient. I mean it literally, not just metaphorically. I mean it literally because it actually works metaphorically as well. You do clean your storeroom and you do get the inspiration to look into some other corner of your being where you have been avoiding looking, and then you clean it as well because you're like, it's not so bad. I can actually, it's not so bad when I'm at it. Only when I'm thinking about it, it's bad.
Nothing for me removes or lessens the fear than taking action. And I think you touched upon something which is uh, a true, it's the paradox of all great truths of life. And that's there's always two swords you can go with. So fear can debilitate you. Well, I was very similar to you. I used fear in many ways to drive me, maybe not even consciously, but I was so terrified of the things that would happen if I didn't take the action that it really propelled me. And it's not, I found it wasn't the ideal way to propel me moving throughout my life, but certainly it was the reframing of looking at, well, what's the worst thing that can happen, or what do I want to avoid? So what are the actions I need to take? And as you said, breaking down those actions. So yeah, it's again, it's the best. We have both of these options on how we're perceiving the fear within us. I'd love to ask you, because there's something you said recently which I thought was very true and a great help and to people, and something that I've struggled with, and that's the difference between ambition and clarity. I think a lot of young people are told, or not even told, outrightly dismissed. If you have no ambition, then nothing's going to become of you. You're going to be a blight on society. You're not contributing. All of the other things that are associated with this ambition of toward progress, and all the things you touched upon earlier about doing the job and so on. Can you just break down that difference between the drive of ambition, which you could also say is driven from fear, and the drive of clarity, because they're completely stark different realities for motivation?
I've noticed through my lived experiences that when I love something, I have an immense energy to pursue what I love. And I don't need to make timetables, routines, set alarm clocks. I am so in it. Like, if I really want to see a particular sunset or sunrise or go for a hike, I don't care if I don't sleep well that night. It's the energy that comes from the clarity that this is what needs to happen for me today. Or uh, love gives focus to it, love gives direction. Love could also mean a deep interest, and it could also mean clarity. So, let's talk about what happens when we are ambition driven. Because I might not be the best person to talk about it, because I have never really been ambitious. I tried to be ambitious in several points in life. When my one of my girlfriends left me, s- literally saying that you have no ambition, man. Like, I don't want to be with you. You have no ambition in life. And I felt so horrible and so bad. I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, I knew from the age of 16 something is wrong with me. Now there's another person proving it. That's another proof that
And
something's
there's
wrong with me.
proof. Yeah.
Um, yeah. So when you are driven by ambition, then you are using willpower. When you are using your willpower, then you are fighting against yourself, basically. You have to use your will so strongly to, I mean, willpower should be used very selectively, maybe from time to time, maybe for smart things. But if you are consistently driven by willpower, you exhaust all your energies. And even if you achieve things you want to achieve in life, you end up feeling exhausted and tired because of so much energy that it takes for you to get things done. And only because you are not really being honest with yourself, like you're not really being utterly naked to yourself and saying, is this what I want to pursue? Does it make me feel fulfilled? But you are consistently receiving validation from outside. Yes, she looked at my car, or he approved my watch, or they like my mansion or apartment or house, whatever it is. And constantly the feedback needs to come from outside for me to feel like it's worth grinding, it's worth hustling, it's worth being driven by ambition. But those who have ever achieved anything in the material world, in terms of something that can be quantified, anything that that you can quantify and say, okay, I'm at 100, if I reach 500 I'll be happy. You know, when you reach 500, that it's just a number, and you just want to increase the number. No way a billionaire ever feels satisfied with his money. He wants to be a multi-billionaire, millionaire. You think of any particular amount or any number of houses, a number of cars. There's never gonna be in you it says, okay, that's enough. I'm enough with that. You would want more and more and more. So it becomes a very classic vicious cycle of being driven by your ambition to afford things you don't need, to impress people who don't care. You know, the famous statement that goes around putting on internet, that's so true as well. And you end up feeling so exhausted and tired. And when you get, perhaps it happens, I'm only assuming, when you start to get older, when naturally the physical energy is less and less and less, and you try to hustle as much as you did in your 20s and 30s, and it's not happening, and you're easily more tired. Like if you're 20 and you drink the whole night, next morning 9 o'clock you're back at work. But if you are mid 30s, 40, and you drink the whole night, you are drunk for 3 days. you can't you can't necessarily function efficiently next day, and you begin to wonder, why do I want to have a bar in my house if I can't really digest any drink? Why do I, so it's confusing. It's lack of reflection in our own lives when we are driven by the fire of ambition. And it's such a strong word that is used by everybody around us. And sadly, the whole world wants to follow the American dream, and the American dream is ambition driven dream. You know, it's like you on top of everybody else. You need to be the best. You need to be in front of everybody. But if you have a heart that can open anytime, you will feel such a fool knowing that for you to become number one, someone had to lose. That's when you realize, do I really want the grading system? Do I really want this numbering of 1, 2, 3? Why do I have to look at my life always in terms of the quantity, in terms of numbers, in terms of a linear movement in time, like chronological order of looking at our own lives? Like I've been talking as if I have been living from the age 16 to 30 to 45. It's just a communication pointer. Life is not necessarily happening in a linear way across time. It's happening in all dimensions all at once. And that is why in the present moment, you could live like eternity, while in the whole lifespan of several years, you will feel like you haven't lived much. Um, Speaking for clarity, I would say that yes, you would want to do things that are not so much approved by society, so you would feel alienated. Because the clarity for me, for example, I'll tell you, I've been fighting this desire, I've been fighting this clarity that I had for a long time, that I love reading and writing. So no matter what I do in my life, I want to have a few hours every day, at least 2, 3 hours every day, when I can just read and write. So when I get, let's say I begin working and I have projects, I have clients, I have whatever I need, and it's taking away, eating away from my reading and writing time, I'm just not happy. I'm just not satisfied with my life, because I cannot do what really comes from within. And then it was so hard for me, but eventually I started saying no. I said no to several things if it stopped me from being able to read and write. And so, again, looking at from a different perspective, someone could say, hey, you had the opportunity to make more money, and all you did was read some books. And only now I have the clarity enough to say that, hey, it's much more worth than $1 billion. I wouldn't trade this for anything else in life. So then clarity is like this, clarity is like 7 billion, 8 billion people are against you. You don't care, you don't mind, because you are very sure about what you want. And again, as I said, with clarity, as the clarity deepens, effort is minimized. It doesn't happen with effort. If someone, let's say you don't enjoy reading, and someone forces you to read 2 hours a day, it's a prison. But it's joy only if you really want it. So we need to see what is it that we want, and where the energy flows. You could try this with everything else, right? Paul, you know that every time I say you, it's all of us, and all the audience is not you, just you. So when we eat something, is it giving us energy or is it taking us energy? If after eating you need to crash for an hour, then you're eating wrong or in a wrong way. Same with exercise. Are you completely exhausted after exercise, but you really look huge, but you are actually very joyful and alive after exercise, but you don't look huge? What do you prefer? For people to tell you that, hey, you look good, or for you to from inside say, hey, I feel good, So the pointer of validation needs to switch towards somewhere within, you know and say, hey, how do I want to live my life? I think that's the question. I'm here, I'm confused, I don't really understand much about this life, but I must go on, right? The show must go on, I must go on living. How do I want to live? It's very simple to ask, how do I want to live? What really matters? What really matters? And as we nail it down, we say, the car matters, the house matters, the iPhone matters. Okay, ask more, go deeper. Why does it matter? What does it give you? Maybe you can go straight to the core instead of going through five different material things. You could go straight to the core. I think in the end, um, if you are, if you lean into the reflective side of life, if you reflect, then you can also reflect and justify all your decisions in life in a way that you can see them as building blocks of your life or learning from your life, because nothing has to be inherently bad or good. Or someone says, in my childhood people used to say that one bad decision can ruin your life, one good decision can change your life. And me as 14, 15 would like wonder, like, what does it mean? What could be a bad choice? What could be a good choice? And to this day, I can debate this to a large extent, because again, it's only a context specific thing to say it's good, it's bad, it's right, it's wrong. It's a context. It's, if you already have a goal in mind, then you can say a right path and wrong path. If the goal is the journey, whichever path you take is the path that you take. It doesn't have anything to do with right and wrong. So yeah, all these little things that turn within. I'll just say last thing and I'll let you ask another question, I think, or comment on it, is that I was also aware of the duality that life puts in front of you. Like, I would wonder, it's day, then it comes night. We are sleeping during the day, and now we sleep at night, because I was very awake during the day while the whole family is sleeping. And I was like, we sleep at night, then we sleep at day. What happens between night and day? What do we do? What do we really do? And so I could see, up and down, back and forth, inside and outside. And I would question, what does it really mean to be inside of something, outside of something? And so, of course, all of this kind of thinking made me feel like I'm full, because I'm not really doing anything productive or useful. Um, but although it was a difficult life in my own head and heart, it was a very difficult life. But things began to make some sense, as I began traveling and began spending more time with myself and spending more time talking to strangers who are open to this kind of dialogues like we're having. And so, because you learn a lot, like if you read Krishnamurti, I read Krishnamurti, he said, we know ourselves only in relationship with the other. So I use this as a pointer, and ask myself, what is success? What is happiness? What is failure? What's a bad choice? What's a good choice? And Osho used to say, you don't get answers to your questions. Eventually your questions dissolve, or your questions seem stupid and questions change, but there are no answers. The mind is asking the question, and it's never going to be satisfied with the answer.
Mm. Mm. Or be a false answer. It's because of the security. It just keeps seeking from the wrong question more often than not. With with clarity, it's very much a point of honoring something that's an essence of yourself, rather than the conditioning and what you're being told that you need to pursue because of whatever the times you're living in are deemed as worthy goals. And often I think that for myself, that honoring that part that actually wants to be expressed can be terrifying, because it can be a 180 direction away from the security you've invested in, that you've thought would make you happy, and you're turning your back on that and you're going in another direction. But as you also mentioned, though, that direction becomes easier and easier because you're being pulled by it, because that's where the energy is, and the energy in the other direction is causing you a lot of friction. Uh, God, I've almost forgotten my question about what I was going to ask with respect to clarity. That's right. So I had this myself, and I think a lot of people may feel it too. When you're living a more reflective and contemplative life in a lot of ways, and you're considering this thing that comes from clarity, often that reflection and waiting for these answers or these better questions to emerge can mean inaction. So if I pursue this thing that's emerging, would this mean I might end up living in an ashram, taking a vow of celibacy in silence, and that's me done? I think that there's a bit of a meme around what it would mean to surrender to this true nature that is within. Uh, what have you found for yourself and observed in others that is potentially contrary to that meme of you
It
surrender to
will
your
be the
true
most
nature and then
beautiful
you
thing
become
to
nothing?
become nothing with surrender to true nature. Because again, we're afraid of the nothing because we're thinking it's an empty void and it's a free fall, never ending. But it's not. It is.
Yeah.
If you look at quantum mechanics,
Yes.
or
Yes.
wherever it said vacuum, it says there's no vacuum. Actually, it's all a field of probabilities, a field of relationships, and all the permutations and combinations. So the journey never ends wherever you are. If you end up, you said ashram, let's say you end up in a prison for the crime you have not committed, and you spend 25, 30 years there. It's only as an idea, a most horrible idea in your head is like, oh my God, what life would be. But there have been several researches done on prisoners and people who are living in society with
Yes,
freedom.
I know.
The happiness level is almost the same. They are perhaps more happy than happier
They're
than the people
happier.
who are in
Yeah.
living with their free will, with their so-called free will. So again, we are afraid only in our thoughts. We are creating scenarios in our head. What if this happens and what if that happens? And we're worried in our thoughts. We are creating stories in our thoughts. In reality, we have no idea because we're not really having direct experiences. We are bringing the filter of the mind to narrate the experience. So it's like I want to speak to you, but I need to have another person who can speak to you and then translate everything to me. And this person is translating based on his life or her life experiences. So we are getting lost in translation. That's what the mind is doing. It has all the conditioning and filters, and we're using the mind to communicate between me and the tree, or me and the sky, me and the dog. And the mind is making a mess. The mind is saying, I've never been around dog, and dogs can bite, so I'm always gonna just jump away from the dog. Someone else's mind is saying that I've always had dogs at home. Dogs are like better than human beings, and I just want to hug every dog. And it's nothing to do with the dog. It's everything to do with you and the filter that you're using in your mind. So I would say, whenever uh, you have such kind of doubts, take a step towards experiencing it. If you think, what if I end up in an ashram forever? Go live in an ashram for 2 months. Then you will know you want to end up there, you don't want to end up there. Will it be good or will it be bad? Um, I think those who live with very clear demands with life from life is like, hey, I want this. That those are the people end up being miserable and hurt and cheated and disappointed by life, because you are making yourself bigger than life, separate from life. First of all, then you are posing questions and demands, and that is the same relationship most people have with God, where God is someone who fulfills wishes. That's what God is for. Hey, God, give me this. Hey, God, give me that. Make sure my children survive. Make sure if you have sent your child to army and your child is fighting the war and you're saying, please save my child, you're saying that let anybody else be killed, but don't not kill my child. So you see the absurdity of our faiths and absurdity of how we are so less reflective about these things. And then when you are realizing that I can't really make a demand from life, I can actually open up and say, hey, life, what do you want? What do you need to happen through the vessel that I am? From this body mind complex, what would you like to happen? I'm curious. I want to see with you. And it says, yeah, do this or do that. And for me, I'll tell you an example that comes to my mind. I have been perhaps intellectually sound regarding these things because I took interest from quite early and I read a lot. But I knew until late 20s that, man, something is sneaky in you. You are getting good at words, but you're not being true to your heart. Sometimes you're saying things you don't mean or you don't feel deeply, but you're saying them because they sound so good and the other person is impressed. Then I had a lot of people that I impressed with my talks. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm done impressing everybody. It doesn't satisfy me. I have to ask myself, what do I want? Why do I want to impress people? Or why am I so impressed by words? And then, gradually, heart opened and the whole thing was different. I didn't have to practice being selfless. I never tried being selfless. I wouldn't dare to call myself selfless now, but I can tell you honestly that now it feels like it's a natural outcome of, much more of, I don't know, blossoming of wisdom, blossoming of life within me, or openness to life within me. I always lack words to share this, but now it comes genuinely that, hey, the only thing that makes sense is sharing and caring and loving and contributing and encouraging and, playing. It makes sense not because this is going to give me the purpose of my life, or this is going to give me the reason of my life. It is because I want to play. That's what I want to do. I always wanted to play as a child. I was always curious about music and dance and laugh and play. And I still want to live my life the same way. So, what feels like play or dance to me is that when I see someone suffering in their head, only with overthinking or only with brooding over the same thing again and again, I genuinely feel like I could offer you a perspective. Only if you're willing to take it, I'm gonna offer it. And um, I mean, if it makes life sustainable, if it makes living possible, why not? I would go through that route as well. So yeah, we need to be really introverted in that sense and really look behind every single thought, every single word, every single action. Because if there is a mixed up of um, I'm doing it because of the fear of this. I mean, if you go into the depths of any fear, what's the worst that you said it already? What's the worst that could happen? And could you be open for the worst? Let's say you made yourself secure by eating well, by never smoking, never drinking, by not having a stressful life, by being aligned with the divine and always taking the sunlight on you and always being like the best Brian Johnson or whatever. But then you had a car accident and that's it. Today's the end of the day. That could happen. Could you rule out that possibility? No. Could you say that you have all the factors, all the variables under control? No. So there is always a possibility for the worst to happen. The point is not what can I do to avoid the worst. Point is to look into the eye at the worst and see, is it really worst? Does it really end? I mean, do I really want to get rid of all my suffering? Because perhaps suffering is always going to be there. You're going to disappear. So perhaps you don't want to get rid of your suffering. You want to get rid of your me, your I. When you get rid of that, then suffering is happening. The sufferer, the one who suffers, is absent. So again, it from the very from very worldly sense, what happens is that yes, we have to pay bills. Yes, we are um, driven by the fear. Fear rules better than love, control, and whatnot. But a little bit of being a little bit wild, being a little bit crazy in the head, being a little bit uh, irrational, being a I mean, if you make sense all the time, if you're always so logical, if you're always so if every time 2 plus 2 comes as 4 in your life, then you're living mathematically. You're living very uh, in a controlled way. Then even if you can control all the factors in your life, the life feels very mechanical and very robotic. So there has to be an element of fear, an element of risk, an element of let's see if this goes wrong, what do I do? You know, we all did this when we were in our 20s. We had the energy, we drove faster than we should have. You know, we said things to other people that we don't say anymore, or we thought nasty thoughts about our parents that we will never dare to think again. So we did some of the risks. Then life tells us, okay, enough. Calm down, get a job, settle down. It's I mean, I lived in Romania and it is a it's a national sentiment. Maybe some Romanians won't agree with me, but my experience of living in Romania tells me that the national sentiment from the generation which is right before my generation is that life is hard and life is dangerous. Life is hard and life is dangerous because they have seen 40 years of communism, they have seen dictatorship, they have seen whatever, but their outcome is life is hard. You have to be careful. And I will get any happiness in life only after I die. That's the grandpas and grandmas. They're waiting to die so that they can get out of this mess. And that's just an attitude. It's the same if you read Russian literature, you will see that there is oh my god, life has to be the most difficult. I love Russian literature, by the way, but the point is, for the last 1000 years, India also got a lot of invasions, millions and millions of Indians were killed, and the attitude is always way different from the attitude in several other places. I'm not saying India is better than the other. What I'm saying is that what happens to you doesn't matter. How you respond to it matters. What happens to you is a fact. How you respond to it is a choice. and the choice is available to you only in the present moment. But if you're living in the past and future all the time, then the choice escapes you.
It leads very interestingly on for me to intention. And I'm going to wrap intention slightly in manifestation because it's as you're probably well aware, it's incredibly popular in the West, manifestation from the point of view of mostly manifesting a life that will make you happy, assuming you know what's going to make you happy. But there is a through line here though that I think is intention, and you alluded to it before when you said about Romania having the attitude that bad things are always going to happen to you and life is suffering, which is a very judo, Christian attitude as well. And then in the and with Russia and the stark contrast being India. So would you, how much then in your understanding is our own intention of how we're being in the world? Uh, and very much these old stories that we've adopted through the culture then manifesting in the fullest sense our reality. And how would we go about if it is the case that we're manifesting this internal state which is then creating the reality around us, uh, what are ways in which we can become at least aware of this in your experience?
It's a very
It's a very big
diff-
question. Yeah.
it's a big question. It's a very difficult question to answer, and I think I'm not going to give you any satisfactory answer. But it's very interesting what I have learned or come up with at this point in my life. We we act in life as if we are the actors, but exactly as if we are the actors. So maybe the play is written by somebody, the director is somewhere else, and there is so much more the producer wants this and all that. You are just an actor and you're acting, but you're acting like you are the real deal. So when someone is watching a theater or play something, all the audience who buys the ticket and goes there knows that it's fake, it's not real. But the job of the actor or actors on the stage is to make you feel like it's real. And that's where the fun is. So or I live knowing deeply well that there's no Hitesh sitting in me who is choosing and creating and manifesting. But I do at the same time live like there is Hitesh or there is something in me that chooses and manifests his own life. And why it doesn't make sense to us is because we are so trained to think logically and it defies all the logics. How could it be that I am and I am not at the same time? To be or not to be is the question we say. But we are and we are not at the same time. Um, and all general, deeper truths of life, they are paradoxical in nature. We can say no matter how many people are around, we are always alone. That could be one side of the truth, but you could say that we're never alone. We're always with something or with somebody. There's never a point that when we're alone, we are with together with the thoughts, we're breathing the same air. And again, the arguments can be made that both sides of the equation could be true at the same time. In the same way, I do live like I am manifesting my life, I am creating my life, but it happens only from the present moment. It happens when I say present moment is when I am connecting myself with myself, sometimes through meditation, sometimes whole life could feel like meditation. When I'm connected to myself with absolutely no concern for future and with absolutely no worry about the past. And I have actually literally done this in my life is that I stand in the moment, and for the last several years I've been living like this, is that I know that I cannot take care of the future because I don't know what comes to the future of my now. But my past now, I can take care of it. If I had to apologize to people, I called everybody and apologized in the process of my spiritual journeys. I took people's apology. I forgave myself and forgave everybody. The whole intention of doing that was that when I sit with myself and do whatever I do, I don't want to be bothered by my past. I want to be completely free of my past. Like Krishnamurti says, I want to die to my past every single moment. Yeah. And that is absolutely freeing. because then you feel so light like a feather. You are just in the present and you have all the opportunity to create whatever you want to create. And over time, because memory lives in time, and so when you live like this in the present moment, you create new past, and this new past is a beautiful past. Everything you look at is, you have a different way of looking at it. You lived with present, so you are living with acceptance, with embracement, with love and kindness and togetherness. And okay, you enjoy thinking about past, you never complain about a thinking mind. And then the only thing remains is the future, like what's going to happen to future. When you understand the unknowability of future, and you realize that the only way I can take any control of what happens in the future is the present, then you begin to treat present not like the neck of the hourglass, but you expand the present, you expand the present, you expand the present. And in the present, magic happens. That's the only thing I can say. In the present is all the wonder, all the magic, all the connection. That's where you could connect to your Jesus or Buddha or Shiva or whoever, Ramana Maharshi. It's only in the present that you can have a dialogue with the author when you're reading a book. It's only in the fully present state with your lover, with your mother, with whoever, with your friend, you can really connect deeply. And that's how you create. That's how you manifest. In that moment, you say, yes. And I think, and I also think I'm not Joe Dispenza, so I don't know I don't know how how it works with all the steps. But I think you can only manifest when the universe wants to manifest the same thing. Basically, you connect in the present moment with the flow of the Tao. You connect with the Tao, and then you realize that you and the Tao want the same thing. You actually merge in the Tao. So again, it could seem like I manifested this life, but then maybe manifestation manifested it through me, and it chose me to do a certain thing, and I made myself available to that frequency. So because if I say I'm going to murder people, I'm going to meditate on it, I'm going to meditate and manifest this murdering, I don't think it will happen. Or it will happen if the universe says, hey, the war is coming on, you were preparing at the right time, we need you for the war, get ready. So it's a tricky one. I think the wise would understand, and the others will think I am stupid. So which could be the case as well.
Hitesh, that was a phenomenal answer. You sort of answered a few questions I had around that with that response. But I think one of the main conflicts is that with the idea that we have, particularly in the Western manifestation, that it needs to look a certain way. I'm going to visualize my life and embody that, and it's going to be all these things that I'm assuming are going to make me happy. Whereas the surrender to the present moment, where all manifestation lives, and to surrender to, I don't know what my life needs to look like. And the more, as you said earlier, the more attached I am to it needing to be this way, the world needs to be this way, that creates, you're 100% going to run into misery. That's all you're going to find there.
I think the if someone is really keen on manifesting and enjoys these tools and perhaps is halfway there, has seen some benefits, I would only perhaps say to those people that if your intention is to contribute to society with whatever you are manifesting, if it is really coming with good intentions in the moment, whatever seems good to you, if it's driven by the energy of love, if it's driven by the energy of togetherness, pursue it anyway. Because what if it works? If it works, good for you. Pursue it anyway. And although if you, it's like having yogic powers, by the way. You have, let's say, the yogic powers of magnifying yourself, or making your size very small, or you becoming two at the same time, and you can have all kind of siddhis, we call them. Let's say you have all those powers. But I was just imagining the other day as well. Let's say I had the power to fly. Let's say all the humans couldn't fly, and I just figured out this morning, hey, I can fly. And I fly, I feel really good. I get internationally famous. I'm very, very happy for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Then what? 4 years? Then what? 5 years? Then what? The thing is that this power that I gain could actually cripple me more, because nobody would treat me as a human anymore. And I would have to be more lonely and, be the Jonathan the seagull. I have to just go more and more to the other realms to see where all I can fly. And the answer is not still there, because it's the same like saying, hey, I don't have any money, but if I had just X amount of money, I would be happy. But then X amount is not enough, then you want to have X to the power of 2 and the power of 4 and have more and more. So be careful with manifestation, because it might, like, be careful what you wish for, because it might come true.
Okay.
And you will see that when it comes true, you will see that, hey, I was thinking my life will improve if I have this, and this. I have all of it, and I'm not happy. Then you will feel suddenly like, oh my God, I've wasted my time. I'm such a fool. I have all the things that I thought I should make me happy, and I'm still not happy. So, of course, nobody can stop you from having those things. So, if you really want to have those things, go ahead and, why not? Go and have those things and have the first hand experience that even if you manifest a life, the thing is that you will get into the habit of manifesting. And once you get there, you want to manifest more and more and more. And then the power starts to corrupt you. And the absolute power corrupts you absolutely. So it's an energy game. A lot of yogis also play it. It's not just a modern thing, it's also a very ancient thing to
Mm.
play with the energy. You had this school of yoga, school of tantra, a school of playing with the energy and using it in your favor, and you have the school of Vedanta, which says right seeing matters, right looking matters. You have
Mm.
the school of Zen, school of you know Dao, where it's effortlessness, it's wu wei, it's don't be so put so much effort and all that. And as Alan Watts says, that certain people require a certain way. People like Gurdjieff. Gurdjieff lived his life as if it was the most difficult thing that you have to solve. And he went all over and made life really strong and struggleful and hard for himself and all for all his students, because that was his energy. He liked to live like that. Someone else is much more like a simpler kind, doesn't want to struggle so much. It's not like there's no way for them. They can just be, and they can achieve the same place that you would achieve by uh, traveling all over the world. And then there is the yogic way that says you have to sit cross-legged, be upright, focus between the eyebrows, and be so tense and focused that you just focus on one point and then the point explodes. You could go that way and maybe it explodes. And you could also just meditate and say, hey, I open myself to everything that comes and goes. And I immediately see that within me all comes and goes, and I can just be a serenely aloof witness. Although I am participating in it, yet I'm not participating in it. So there are several methods, and I'm not really in favor of or against any method. I think everybody should find out what works for them. But again, you want to really begin with the end. You want to begin with the fact is that, okay, why do I want what I want? And how do I know that that's the only thing I want? I would rather manifest not a goal or a goal post or a point. I would rather manifest a way of being. So it has the nature of fixity and fluidity at the same time. So it's true now and it's true forever. So it doesn't have to be like, okay, now I want this and now I want
Mm.
that. And the
Mm.
last thing I would say is that when you manifest, it would be smarter to manifest the abilities to manifest rather than to manifest things. Because if you manifest a big house, then you will have to again manifest another thing. But if you manifest the ability to connect with more people and provide value to them and find a way in which people are very happy to open their wallet and give you money, then you can keep manifesting what you want. So it could all be a good thing. It's always, like a fad. Fashion comes and goes. But a smart person always finds exactly what they need from it and leave the rest.
The core of that for me that you touched upon is it's a state that people are seeking through manifestation, regardless of what that is. It's that feeling. So as you said, like what is that state that ultimately you're looking to have for the majority of time? Um, Hitesh, I could speak to you for another 4 months, but I'm conscious of your time. I'd love to have you back on if you're open to it, to dive into something else. But I'll ask you if you have any leaving closing remarks for people. But I also want to mention you've got a great meditation. I don't want to say challenge, but you're doing a month's med. I know it's already started, but if people want to begin there, it seems like a very good place to start. But yeah, where do you want to guide people to uh, the work that you're offering, and if you've got any final things to close out this conversation?
Yeah, thank you for having me to your podcast, and I would love to connect again another time. definitely. The leaving remark would be to not take it all so seriously and to have fun, of course, responsibly, and to be curious. I think that sums up my life because answers are illusions. Answers will be satisfying the mind. You will always keep on seeking. So you could allow all the seeking to exhaust itself and then just be in the now, or just be honest, be authentic. Think about it, might sound very morbid, but it's part of life. So I think every day, think about your death. Think about how it is you want to die. What does it mean to die? What does it feel to die? The more you open yourself to death, the more life comes to you, and that will guide you. My words won't be necessary. Nobody's words will be necessary. If you want your life to guide you, look at all aspects of your life, and it will begin guiding you. And if you want to continue connecting with me, the YouTube channel is called Echoes of Existence. And once you're there, you could find my link tree and all the other places where you could find me. And I'd invite you to, yeah, look it up.
Thank you, Hitesh. I'll put everything in the show notes for people, so don't fret. And thank you for your time today. Thank you for all your work. And yeah, I can't wait to speak to you again.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for having me.